Hello, everyone. A very good evening to everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today on what admission officers look for in applications beyond test scores. We've begun the webinar on time, but we have to give people a few more seconds to join in. We just want to make sure that the number of people who registered, they just get enough time to log in and they don't miss anything. So if you're here already, then welcome. I hope you have a great evening, and I'm sure you're really going to enjoy this session that we have planned for you today. While we wait for some of the other registered people to join in, go ahead and leave in the Q&A box, which city are you joining us from? Let us know what major are you studying? What year are you in? I'd love to know if we have first year college students joining in, or do we have final year students joining in? Also, I know this is a bit of exam season going on. So if you have exams going on, please let me know, and I'm going to wish you all the best for sure. So drop in your major, drop in your city in the Q&A box. And I'd love to know who our attendees are today. All right, I know some of you are from Bombay, some names are familiar. I know someone who's here from Delhi, so that's nice. All right, we have somebody here who's studying communication science in Amsterdam. We have another Delhi resident. I know it's really hot in Delhi right now. I hope you're staying hydrated and safe. Would anybody else like to share where they're logging in from? Also, what years are you in? Are you in first year, second year, or third year? That'll be interesting to know. I mean, I'm sure I can kind of talk to you specifically and to your specific major as well while we're talking through the webinar. Oh, I see a really familiar name, somebody who worked with us the last year. Hello there. Nice to see you attend this session. All right, we have somebody who's considering studying in Italy. That's really, really interesting. I'm definitely going to talk to you about luxury brand management. Okay, so on that note, let's begin. Once again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Red Pen webinar on what admission officers look for in applications beyond your test scores. Now, bear in mind that everything that we discussed today is going to apply to you based on which country you apply for, right? So, at the end of the session, when we have our Q&A session, and, you can go ahead and leave your questions in the box as they pop up into your mind, and I'll answer them at the end of the session. Bear in mind that, depending on which country you're looking to apply for, some of these test scores may apply to you, some may not. So what I have kind of figured out is that when we talk about test scores, we're going to talk about GPA as well, but we're also going to talk about the fact that, the GRE or the GMAT is a very, very integral component of your application, even in countries that do not always directly ask for standardized test scores. There are universities in Europe, for example, that don't really require the GRE or the GMAT per se, but we have noticed the trend of when somebody submits a score, then obviously the admission officers of that university are giving it a closer read. So that happens, right? So we just want to put it out there that it doesn't really matter whether the country you're looking to apply for is asking for one or not. These are test scores are something that you should give due consideration to, but they are not the only parameter that they're judging your application on. So when I look at this slide, you'll see that what I'm saying is actually quite different than what's written here. So go ahead and take a screenshot, so you can read it later. But I do want to tell you that, there are a lot of things that over the last 18 years, when I've been speaking to admission officers, they have been able to highlight to me subtly, and to the rest of the team when we meet them, we kind of understand that there are certain patterns and there's certain identification check marks that they're looking for in an application beyond data points. Now, in countries like Australia, Singapore, the United Kingdom, all of Europe and Canada as well, there are minimum eligibility requirements for graduate school. So you have to make sure that your GPA meets that minimum eligibility requirement to even consider applying there first and foremost. But then beyond that, what else? Does that mean that, you got direct entry just because you meet the minimum eligibility requirements? No. Just because you met the minimum eligibility requirement, it only means that they're going to definitely read your application. So then what is it that they're truly looking for? And that's the question I'm going to answer for you today. The 6 things that admission officers look for beyond your GRE, GMAT score and your data bubble. The first thing, and the most foremost thing, is showcasing your intellectual curiosity, right? Now, if you're somebody who's sitting out there and thinking, well, I want to study marketing in graduate school, I want to study luxury brand management, I want to study computer science. On what basis are you making this decision for yourself? Are you somebody who's spending ample time outside of the classroom, outside of your theoretical studies, to explore this interest that you have? If you have studied statistics and probability while you're doing your engineering, and then on the basis of that and only that, you're saying, well, I want to do data sciences, that's not really a good enough reason to study data sciences. You have to showcase that you have academically explored your subject area of interest outside of your curriculum. All right. Now, I present to you a case study. All right. This is an applicant who is studying engineering, and they really were very interested in doing product development and product innovation. How did they know they wanted to do product innovation? It wasn't just a brainwave. I'm sure there was at one point somewhere in a lecture or a senior or a faculty member who mentioned this area. But that led to a series of activities that they undertook to ensure that they actually explore that area. And if you look at the details that I've put onto this screen, you'll realize that the exploration was happening while in college, so on campus, to the go-kart presentation, at the conference or as a part of the college community, but also happening outside. A lot of internships back to back. I mean, if you look at this student, they're graduating this year right now as we speak, right? And the interest in design engineering going back to 2019, the very first year of college. So getting their hands dirty, exploring, and then by all means eliminating it. Just because you're doing an internship in your first year or your second year and you think, well, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, it may not appeal to you. You might realize that, okay, this is definitely not something that I want to do right away. And then you want to explore something else in the second year, or in the summer between first year and second year. So it's very important to intellectually explore your academic area of interest. If you are considering finance, and if you're not speaking to your faculty member about giving you book recommendations to read, theoretical, academic in nature, or if you're not really undertaking any project, like a lab simulation in finance, understanding how Bloomberg works, things like that, then you cannot convince an admissions committee that you have intellectually explored this area of study. And therefore, when you are stating your goals in the finance space or in the product innovation space, you're actually being very clear-headed about it. You have this clarity of thought when you're saying this is where my short-term goals are. So that's the first thing that you must make note of. How am I intellectually exploring my area of interest? And by intellectual, I mean academic. I'm academically, right? All right, moving on. The next thing that they're definitely looking for is community impact. Now, what communities are you a part of? I'm going to start with myself. I am a part of my gender, right? So I'm a part of the female community. I'm a woman, and I am a part of the community that has to celebrate women and work with women and create an impact for the women. I'm also a part of the community that wears spectacles. I definitely belong to my regional community or my religious community or my nationality, but I'm also the community of people who live outside of India. I'm also a part of the community that does not color their hair, right? I'm in this very small group of women of my age who do not color the hair, for example. So there are various communities that I identify with and I relate to, right? And then how is my community, any one of the communities that I identify with, truly benefiting from me being a part of that community? Take a moment and answer that question for yourself. That is what I mean by community impact. It's not that, well, you know what, I have been spending the last 3 years in college, working with a Braille Academy to develop reading material for the people who are visually challenged. Why does that community matter to you? Are you somebody who has dealt with poor vision, low vision, things like that? Or are you someone who has someone dear in your life who's coping with that kind of a situation? If not, it's very hard for you to justify why you resonate with that community. Well, you could come back and tell me my father is an ophthalmologist, and I have spent my younger years in his clinic, and therefore, I've spent a lot of time understanding the visually challenged community. Well, then that makes sense. All right. So you have to find a community that you resonate with, that you relate to, and therefore you want to create an impact in that community. Your college is your community, your building where you live, or the city where you live. Those are your communities. And it's very important to understand that anything else that you do, whether you're considering studying in finance, or you're currently studying finance, but you want to get into equity and economics, or you're currently studying economics, but you want to get into financial engineering, no matter what it is that you're currently studying and what it is that you aspire to study, this community impact thing is a little above and beyond, right? It's constantly spending your time and energy in the overall development of any one community that you identify with, all right? Now, this is somebody who did not have a GRE score, okay, an average one at best, didn't really submit it for a lot of the applications because that was a strategic decision they took, and then had consistently spent time over the years engaging with community, spending a lot of time creating an impact with communities that they truly resonated with. The professional experience was one thing. The study that they did was one thing. The study that they were aspiring to do was another thing completely. This was outside of that, the person that they were. And why is this important for admission officers? This is important for admission officers because when they see you working tirelessly and seamlessly and consistently towards creating an impact in a community, then they know that you are somebody who's going to come to their college community and create an impact there too. You're not somebody who's going to just go attend lectures and then go home and do your own thing. You're somebody who's going to want to make a difference. You're going to be somebody who's going to initiate things, who's going to lead things, who's going to volunteer their time and energy. And those are the kind of people they want. And, we often hear that, it's only the United States that really looks at community work, and it's only for undergraduate that you need community work. Not really, if you are somebody who truly has this part of their personality very developed, and, you are somebody who's constantly engaging in community-related impact work, then it's an inherent part of who you are as a person. And it's very important that your resume reflects that. It's very important that you find place in your resume to talk about who you are outside of your work, who you are outside of your studies. And that's that one key area that definitely needs to be touched upon. So that was the second one. All right, moving on. What is your level of academic acumen? Are you somebody who is consistently and rigorously engaging with your academics? I very recently was counseling one of the students I was working with, and I said to that person, do you go into your classroom because the teacher has to teach? So you're going into the classroom because the teacher is teaching? Or do you go into the classroom to learn? And that's an extremely important question each one of us who identify as students must ask ourselves. If I am going into a classroom to learn, I am going with the mindset that I am going to ask questions, and I am going to have discussions, and I am going to engage in building an opinion or building a thought about what I am studying. On the other hand, if I go into a classroom because the teacher is teaching, then I'm simply going to take a checkbox, in which case I'm not really going to engage with the content. I'm going to lose focus. I'm going to have to work very hard on constantly continuing to focus on what is being taught. I'm not going to really be interested in asking questions. I might even roll my eyes because there's another person in the class who's asking too many questions. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do after the class is over. So as students, as a part of the student community, it's very, very important that we ask ourselves, am I going into a classroom area to learn or because the teacher has to teach? And the minute you find that answer, then it's very easy to plug in that gap. All right. When you really engage with your content and you challenge yourself, what happens? Okay, say you travel to Amsterdam, or you're studying in Italy, or you're studying in Delhi, you're studying in Jalandhar, wherever it is that you are. After you finished high school, after you finished grade 12, the transition to college was a big jump, right? So that you took that one semester to settle down, to make friends, to get comfortable with your dorm, with the new climate, with the new discipline, with the new time schedule, all of that. And that's fine. But then consistently after that, semester by semester, did you make an ardent effort to do better every exam, to ask teacher for feedback, to make sure you implemented that feedback and plugged in the weaknesses that you had, whether through a tutor or extra hours of study or getting a friend to help you with notes. And then did you semester by semester show a higher level of GPA engagement? That is what I mean by academic acumen. You must show to a university, especially if you're looking at a competitive university, right? If somebody wants to study computer science and they think Georgia Institute of Technology is the most competitive for computer science, or if somebody wants to study luxury brand management and they're like, okay, London College of Fashion is one of the most competitive for luxury brand. So then if you're looking at those kind of institutions, which are the most competitive for your area of study, then what they are offering you is the highest level of rigor that you could possibly get for that area, right, in graduate school. So then the admission officers do want to make sure that you'll be successful in their program. They don't want you to come and struggle, right? So when you are choosing your university, then you're saying, well, I'm going to apply to 3 competitive universities or 3 dreams colleges, like we typically call them. You have to make sure that your transcript is an accurate representation of how well you can cope with that academic rigor. So they're looking for their academic acumen. And yes, GRE, GMAT scores are one way to showcase your academic acumen, right? And I'm going to highlight that through this case study, wherein this student who had an 8.79 overall GPA eventually got like this most amazing GRE score, which helped the admission officers be convinced that this person can cope in their on their campus. But then look at how consistently they actually work towards their GPA, right? And I do believe there was one semester right towards the end where they were sick, because of COVID, and they didn't turn up for the exam. So the overall GPA, CGPA took a hit. But look at the consistency from semester 1 to then semester 2, that, okay, semester 3, there was a slight dip, but then they addressed it in semester 4, and they took a big jump in semester 4. And because semester 4, and I remember semester 5 also was very strong for this candidate, when they took that hit in semester 6, right, they were able to nullify it and still graduate with an 8.8 GPA, which is a really good standing. And then if you have a GRE score that reflects that 8.8 or it's even higher, then you're automatically letting them know that, okay, I can cope with academic rigor, right? Now, again, outside of North America, there are not many universities that ask for the GRE GMAT score. And I'm going to have the next case study is a sample of that. So in which case your GPA does need to show that. You need to show that I can consistently cope with the level of rigor that you are going to put my way, right? And then the admission officers are kind of relaxed and they're like, okay, we don't mind admitting this person because this person will eventually do well. I mean, look at the admits that this person has, right? You're looking at a Cornell for chemical engineering or engineering management. And these programs are not easy in Cornell to crack. You're not going to go there and be successful unless you're somebody who has the academic acumen to cope with the rigor that a University of Southern California or New York or Cornell or Brown are going to give you, right? So it's very, very important to be aware of the fact that your academic acumen is a true reflection of how well you will do in graduate school. So you want to be able to go into a classroom for learning, not just because the teacher is going to teach. That's very, very critical out here. All right, moving on. When we look at leadership and when you're going to be taking initiative, what do I mean by that? Look, when you go to graduate schools are fully aware that you're going to be joining the workforce thereafter, if you haven't already. All right. Now, they want to make sure that you are somebody who's very easy to recruit. You're somebody who will come up their data bubble as being a success story. Right? They're in the business of creating success stories. Let's be honest, it's a business. Every university is a business. Now, and you can showcase that you have the soft skills developed, or you, while you are in college, are developing soft skills, right? It makes you employable. It makes you, gives you an edge in the job market. It makes you easier to interview, all right? And because you turn up in an interview having done certain things and built certain leadership qualities or collaborative skill sets and problem-solving techniques and critical thinking and all of that outside the classroom, what a future employer, a future recruiter thinks about is that, okay, this person is someone who can truly create an impact at my company as well. This is somebody who's going to gel with the team. This is someone who we can trust, we can rely on. They've had the failures, they've had the experiences. And when you showcase that on your resume, is when you get those interviews outside of graduate school as well. So when admission officers for graduate school, for a master's or a PhD are admitting you, they are still looking for you as a success story in the future. In the world, how are you going to be able to achieve your short-term goals of, say, working at Boston, at BCG, or working with a Tesla, working with a ExxonMobil? They're going to be able to gauge that by how much leadership and proactiveness you've shown while you were in college. This is an example of that. Somebody who spent time in college did phenomenally well. So, academic acumen was very high, but at the same time, they were constantly doing things, taking voluntary roles, leading clubs, leading initiatives, initiating initiatives. Very often you won't find things that are available in college which are of your interest, which is fine. You can initiate something, you can get something going, and it doesn't have to be a huge success, a resounding success. You could fail at that initiative. You could start a newsletter, and 6 months down the line, after one semester, you realize that literally nobody's reading my newsletters. But at least you tried. You took the initiative. You were willing to challenge your comfort zone. Put yourself out there, try something new for yourself, and then you failed. But that's fine, because even through that failure, what you did was you developed a part of your personality that's going to be extremely attractive to your future employer, because they want risk takers. They want people who are willing to give ideas. They want people who don't mind getting their hands dirty. And that's what this component of the application shows you, that when I take leadership, when I put myself out there, when I tried something new, which is completely different, and it's not even required by my transcript. It's not like I won't graduate if I don't represent NMIMS in an international competition, or if I don't, do communication skills by Trinity and do like 17 performances in 3 years. It's not like they're going to kick you out of college, but it definitely builds in you the ability to take risks, to stand up there and say, well, this is something brand new, but I'm still going to go ahead and try it. And that's very, very critical. All right. Okay. Moving. I can see some questions coming in. So, please go ahead and keep putting in your questions, and I will definitely answer them at the end of the session. All right. The next thing, when we consider your strength and domain awareness, what we basically trying to tell you is that, are you aware of what your goals are? Right? If somebody comes to me for counseling and says, look, I want to work with BMW as a product design engineer, right? That's great. That's fantastic that you have that clarity. Where did you get that clarity from? Do you know what are the skills that a design engineer in an automotive industry needs? Well, you don't know. So then how are you going to find that out? And admission officers are fully aware that life is going to happen to you once you join their school, and that you're going to change your goals. It's fine. Nobody's going to hold you to those goals. But you must spend time in understanding what your short-term goals are. What is it that people are currently hiring for? What kind of skills are within my area of interest are being rewarded in terms of employability? And therefore, in that specific role, if I am an equity research analyst in Wall Street, what is the job description? What are the key responsibility areas? What are the technical skill sets I will need? Are you aware of that? And if you are not today, but you are very, very seriously considering graduate school for 2024 or 2025, you must start working on that. You must build domain awareness. You must be aware of what are the trends in your industry. What are the kind of job opportunities out there? Which countries are good for those kind of jobs? And then you embark on this journey and you say, okay, this is my short-term goal. If you're going to write an entire statement of purpose and you're not even going to know why you're doing why you want to study, what you want to study, then it's very hard for an admission officer to put that faith in you, because you are not putting that faith in yourself. You're somebody who's saying, well, I'm just going to come on campus and figure it out. Well, there are enough people to figure it out. Why would they give you an admit and not the next person who wants to figure it out? It's because you come with that clarity of thought. You come with that maturity in what you see is your roadmap ahead. And you're allowed to take turns. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to get in saying, I want to do a product engineer, and then eventually do innovation in another company, in another startup, which is doing innovation in EV bicycles, right? Which is fine. But the fact that you have a roadmap ahead gives the admission officer the confidence that they can trust you to find and navigate a path for yourself, right? That's what we mean by strength and domain awareness. This applicant who we worked with recently, they were very clear about what their goals were. When they started the college shortlist process with us, and they started exploring various curriculum across various universities, they kind of figured out that, social entrepreneurship might become too niche. They may want to actually explore some options within general management as well, which would still be applicable in the social impact space. And because they didn't want to choose one over the other, they did a combination of application. But they had done enough research in the social impact space to actually come to us saying, look, I know I want to do social entrepreneurship, right? That's the way I'm headed. And I am getting my hands dirty. I am initiating things. So there was a lot of leadership and all of that here. But there was a lot of research that was done prior to even coming to the Red Pen. So what happened was it became much more clearer to them when one goalpost was fixed about, okay, what are the other parameters, therefore, that can actually work, right? And then everything aligned for them, which is why they got the admits that they did, right? And this was an application to the United Kingdom. So they didn't even need a GRE. They didn't even need a GMAT. But of course, the GPA has to meet the minimum eligibility requirement, which it did. So we must be very clear about what is the industry, what is the role, what are my short-term goals, therefore. And then from there, you start building your journey backward and you identify which program you want to study. And that's when you can convince an admission officer or admission team that, yes, this is exactly what I want to study and I know why I want to study it. All right. Brings us to the last one, industry knowledge. Now, when you are thinking of getting into luxury brand, or you're thinking of getting into marketing, or you're thinking of getting into psychology, do you know your industry? Have you spent enough time understanding the role or the parameters of that industry in the economy that you're going to study it in? For example, marketing in the United States is very, very popular. But marketing in the United States for international citizens is very hard to get employment in. So you have to know your industry. You have to know within your industry what role you're looking at, for sure. But then you also have to know what is the impact of that industry in that economy where you want to work first, right? If you're thinking that I'm going to do masters in management and then I'm going to come back to India and I'm going to join Ernst & Young, it might be a very hard pitch for them because in India, Ernst & Young is spoiled for choices. They have all the MBAs from the best MBA institutes in India and abroad approaching them for employment. So they wouldn't hire somebody who's a fresh graduate with a master's in management typically, right? So those are some of the trends that you need to be aware of. You need to know your industry. And unless you spend time in the industry, knowing your industry, studying your industry inside out, you will not get clarity about who you want to be in that space. The minute you are able within your industry to find a role that matches with the skills you wish to develop within yourself, and therefore you will then know the impact you want to create, that is when your essays will be pure gold. When you are able to say that in the world of supply chain, there exists a deficit when it comes to using technology and technological softwares for efficacy, for efficiency in that area. And I know this because in the latest Harvard Business Review, 3 of these companies have spoken about it, or in the latest report released by this company, which is one of the biggest supply chains in that Africa region, they have identified that this was the issue that they faced. And that is the gap I want to solve through studying a blend between supply chain and technology. Then an admission officer knows that you know your space. So only when you have spent enough time doing this level of research is when you are actually setting yourself up for success in the graduate school admission process. That's when admission officers are willing to take a chance on you because you are setting yourself apart from the rest of the people. Otherwise, imagine the number of people coming out of India and other Southeast Asian countries who are applying for the same one seat in one of those leading universities that offer that program they wish to study. Think about it. The competition is hard. Competition is tough. So you have to set yourself up for success by doing this level of research. this was actually somebody who I had spoken about earlier as well. Now, they spent a lot of time researching the industry, researching the trends in the industry, but then also finding a work opportunity that completely aligned to the skills they wanted to build. And now they are going in to get a master's in organizational psychology to go to the next level. And it was very easy for a Columbia University or a New York University to see that because of the deep end research that they were able to state in their essays. Everything that they did, if you look at this on the left-hand side of the screen, everything that they did completely aligned with having done a lot of research and coming to the universities with conviction saying, look, I know what I'm saying because I have done this level of research in my industry. I know how my industry is progressing. I know the trend in my industry, and I know within that industry who I'm going to be and the impact I'm going to create as a leadership person. All right. I am going to now open up the floor for questions. We have about 15 minutes for questions. And of course, if I cannot answer all of them, I have given you my statistics, my data, my email address. You can find us on LinkedIn and you can send us your questions and we'll be happy to answer them. All right. So I'm starting from the top. What if we do not have these internships from the very starting? It's fine. Look, if in the first year you were just busy settling down into college and you were just busy focusing on your grades, it's fine. If you're in second year, start this summer. I think this summer is still open. Find those opportunities in an area that you want to study in graduate school. Make sure you do enough research to find out what role, what team, what department, all of that, and get started now. It's never too late. At least start now. All right, somebody's saying if I go to class just because the teacher is teaching and because attendance is mandatory, how to change that mindset into going into classes for learning? I think that's a fantastic question, Ishan. All right. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is welcome to adulthood. Okay. If Ishan, 60% of your week, your day, your month, your year, you're spending on doing things that you like, 40% is something that you're going to have to build a discipline with. Right. The first thing you need to understand is, Ishan, small baby steps towards a larger goal. You must set a goal for yourself. Within 3 months, I want to take my semester grades from X to Y. Before the next exam, I want to make sure in this subject, which I did really badly in last exam, I want to do better. Now break up that semester into smaller pieces. So what am I going to do this 6 weeks, next 6 weeks, final 6 weeks? In these 6 weeks, when I go to class, am I making enough notes? And when I'm coming home, am I looking at those notes, revising them, making keywords, underlining the keywords? Because it's a game of short-term memory to long-term memory. 80% of the data when you sleep that night is lost that you heard in the class. If your mind wanders in the class, it's fine. It's human tendency. We all wander. We can't really focus for more than 40-45 minutes. It's fine, but bring your mind back. And because you're going to be making notes, your mind will be forced to focus, because when you're writing and you're looking and you're listening, then there is a synchronization that happens mentally. Make the notes, come home, make sure before you sleep that night, you revise the notes. Make sure that weekend, you again revise those notes. So what you're constantly doing is you're training your mind to get into the discipline of revision. And when you start doing that, Ishan, again and again, that is that 40% of discipline that you need in life. Happy to discuss this in details with you, Ishan. Send me an email and I'm happy to get on a call with you and discuss it in details. All right, somebody is currently pursuing BCA and plan on pursuing Masters in Computer Science in Canada. But whenever they search for colleges, there are top listed, not for someone who does not score very well. Suggestions to search for colleges that can take in students that aren't toppers like me. Hey, listen, if you want to study computer science, more than finding like a niche college, like the best college, you need to find a curriculum that will allow you to build the skills that you want to build. All right. Study in Canada is actually a governmental organization website of the government of Canada. Go onto their website, Study in Canada, and they will have a list of all the colleges possible. Right. Alternatively, you can engage the Red Pen to do the research for you. But first, go to the government website. It's called Study in Canada. And then look at all the colleges. And I'm sure they'll have a filter where you can put in computer science and you'll get a list of colleges. there are some other parameters to this also, right? Like you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're going to a community college and you don't get a visa. So you want to be a little careful with that whole element of it. But I guarantee you, as long as you meet the minimum eligibility requirement of a college, they'll be happy to look at your application, provided you some of the other aspects are outstanding for you, the ones that I mentioned. Okay. Somebody says that they come from a club that doesn't have a college that doesn't have any clubs. And where can I build my skills outside of college? Do online opportunities have the same value as in-person ones? So listen, when you're talking about this from a point of view of leadership and initiative, the opportunities are unlimited. I mean, even if you just join the road track club of the city that you're in, right? Or you decide to launch a road track chapter of your college. Get in touch with your principal or dean or head of the department and say, can I organize a guest lecture series? You know, within our field of study, whatever, I don't know what you're studying, but within our field of study, can I, do once a month, one industry expert coming and talking to us about the industry and what role it is and how they hire and all of that. That's leadership. That's taking initiative, right? But if you're talking about it from a point of view, academic acumen, then yes, online courses help. Doing research, finding a mentor within college or outside college to conduct research, that will help you build that academic acumen. So it depends on what area you're looking at building your skill set in, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities out there. My one suggestion to you is do not waste this summer. Get an internship stat now, tomorrow, yesterday. Just get an internship, practice some skills, even if you get to just do photocopies in an office, but you get to hear real world conversations in a workplace. That's going to lead to a lot of realizations. And the biggest learning will be what I don't want to do. When we work, very often we don't come back with the saying, I want to do this. But very often you'll come back saying, this I definitely don't want to do. I can't see myself doing this for 5 years, which is great. You've eliminated one option. So now you can explore the next one, right? In the scenario of knowing my professional space, how do I convince the admission officer of my knowledge when I want to cross over from psychology to marketing? Oh, what a fantastic question. All right. When you want to explore marketing and see whether you really are into marketing, research helps. Doing research on consumer behavior, consumer analysis, all of that, specifically for you from psych to marketing. Another thing that will help is internships, right? But an internship in a role where you're able to apply certain psychological sensibilities to be able to help that team, right? So you're also helping your community with who you are, psychology student. Then you look at admission officers, right? And when you're writing a statement of purpose, and also there are various components within the form which ask you subjective questions, you're going to be able to explain that narrative very systematically, therefore, right? That through the study of psychology, I was very intrigued with consumer sciences and how consumer behavior works. And then that led me to an internship in marketing. And when I was in the marketing internship or when I did the research paper, these realizations actually about the industry kind of resonated with me. And then I researched it further. And these are some of the realizations I had. And therefore, I am now making that pivot. And it's absolutely okay. Your undergrad doesn't have to always link to what you study in graduate school. And universities abroad are absolutely accepting of that, provided you're able to show that academic acumen, you're able to show the industry knowledge and the domain awareness. All right, how can I stand out even if you don't have the work experience? Look, we are all very, very unique individuals, all right? And I guarantee you, if you have self-awareness and if you spend ample time with yourself, understanding who you are as a person, what are the skills that you have to offer to the world, what is the impact you wish to create, and who do you want to be in that industry space, right? And then you're able to articulate all these realizations through your essay, you will be able to stand out. See, I'll be honest with you. The university admit process is competitive because you're applying in a pool where people with 0 to 12 years working. I have worked with people with 11, 12, 17 years of work experience for masters. All right. So your pool is competitive. I guarantee that. But I also guarantee you this, that a university is looking for the student who's unique. If you are able to bring that self-awareness to the table, then the content people who you work with, should you hire a counselor and who's working on your content, they will be able to help you etch it out in your essays. They will be able to prod you to bringing those realizations into your essays. It's there. There is a story there. You just have to spend enough time with yourself to know what it is. All right. Hi, Prabhav. He's someone who has done a professional qualification like a CA and a correspondence degree to fulfill the undergraduate. How do admission officers deal with this in light of the fact that there might actually be no progress to talk about? Prabhav, articleship, that's your trump card, right? But again, Prabhav, are you looking at doing finance? Are you looking at studying accountancy, tax, risk management? What are you looking at studying? If it aligns with your study of CA, then the narrative is quite clear, to be honest, in my head. But if not, then let's connect. Let's talk about if you're doing a pivot from CA to something else. I recently met a student who was moving from CA to something very creative, right? So if that is the situation, then a little more thought needs to be given than what I can give in this webinar. But happy to connect on team.pg. All right, somebody who's taken a gap year. First of all, I don't like that term gap year, because a gap year basically means I just sat at home and watched Netflix. Is that the case? My first question. And if that is not the case, then what was it that you were truly doing with your time? You know, some people stay home to take care of an ailing parent. Some people stay home because COVID happened. The family was just going through a lot. So I just took this 1 year to just be with the family. That's an investment into your community, right? And if you're able to explain that, then that's fine. But if you just sat at home and saw Netflix, then that is a gap year. And then that definitely that will make your profile a little weaker, because you're competing with people who are doing things, who are getting things done. You know, I often meet students who like, I'll quit my job and study for the GMAT, or I'll quit my job and do this research. But you don't need to, because life has to go on while you're preparing for GRE and GMAT and doing a research paper. And there is a weekend to account for that. So I don't really believe in, from a graduate school application perspective, I don't really believe in gaps in resume. But there are gaps in the resume. And if there's a very valid reason, somebody wants to drop a job or graduate and then just take a year off and learn Spanish in Spain, and then that's not really a gap year, is it? You spend time learning a language. So, if yours is a unique situation, but you did something in that, then that's fine. You'll be able to explain it well. Don't worry about it. Okay. Are there good universities in the US for computer science which accept 3-year degrees? Oh my God. Mr. or Miss Anonymous attendee, I cannot tell you the number of times I answer this question around this time of the year. In fact, I'm going to be doing another webinar in July on the 3-year versus 4-year, right? So definitely attend that. But, there are some for computer science specifically, but there has to be something very, very outstanding in your profile for them to truly consider you for computer science. For 3 years, I would recommend a 16th year in the United States. There is a program called Align, which like Northeastern, Columbia, University of Southern California offer as a bridge. So it's typically for people coming from non-CS into CS, but it's a 1-year program. So you could use that bridge program and then apply for a master's. But otherwise, even if you look at that BVOC, a 1-year program in cybersecurity or something, or do your 1-year PG diploma in statistical analysis, some universities offer that. So if you look at some of those things, then I'm a little old school like that. I would recommend that, because what will happen is that even if you find 5 good universities which will accept you with 3 years, you're leaving a lot of other universities on the table, right? And I don't know how smart a strategic decision that would be for you. So think about that. All right. How do admission officers view leadership at work as against leadership in personal life? Look, leadership is leadership. If you are creating an impact in your community, whether it's at work or your personal community, right? It doesn't really matter. It's about what realizations you are able to bring into your essay process through those community engagements, those leadership engagements, right? If you're able to learn something and grow from those experiences and then able to write about those, then it doesn't matter whether it was from a personal or a professional front. What is best for marketing? France, Italy, Germany, or Ireland? Best for marketing is the UK, the US, then Ireland, couple of universities in Netherlands, University of Amsterdam, fantastic for communications. And then France and Italy and Germany. France and Italy would be in the same level, and then Germany. Is it necessary to consult an advisor before searching for colleges? I see a lot of ads now because I've been searching for colleges. Hey, see, that's the thing, right? Back in the day, 18 years ago, when I first started counseling, there wasn't a lot of information overload, right? So when students came to us, applicants came to us, and we told them, okay, these are some of the universities, and it was an easier decision-making process. Now with the overload of social media information and the advertising that happens onto consumers' faces, it's in-your-face advertising, what I call. There is a sense of FOMO, right? Like if I don't choose this university, will I miss out and things like that. So in fact, the overload of information is a very big reason why applicants and some parents come to us and they seek us out. But no, I don't think it's necessary to consult an advisor if you're somebody who's mature enough to be able to kind of filter out the junk messaging and filter out the level of FOMO that you feel and say, okay, I know what I want and I'm only going to focus on that, to be honest. All right. Somebody is graduated thinking of going for MS Business Analytics, and I don't know coding, a little intimidated by the fact that classmates would be engineering with prior experience in the same. Should I keep this into consideration while deciding the course? Do you like coding? Okay, that's the first thing to answer for yourself. If you like it, then fantastic. Find 4 or 5 of the prerequisites. And if you go to some of the MS Business Analytics programs in the US and Canada and the UK, they'll give you a list of prerequisites. And you can just see which are the common ones and pick 5. And then you have now, if you're looking at 2024 fall, you have from now until August next year to do those 5 coding programs. Okay. If you don't like coding, but there are 5 prerequisites, you have to mentally prepare yourself that I need to know this as just that one hurdle in my way towards getting into the graduate school program of my choice. You're never going to be a coder, right? Those engineers have studied it under 4 years of their college courses, but that doesn't mean they're becoming coders. They're getting into business analytics, right? So understand that you're not doing it as a part of your livelihood. You're never going to have to code to earn a living, but you have to know code because you're going to base a lot of your strategical decision making, which generates the revenues for the companies you work in, based on the codes that have been created and the data that has therefore been accumulated. So you want to make sure that you are fully aware of it, as a future business leader, strategy leader. So what you really want to do is you want to be fully aware of what is your level of comfort and then work on your mental preparation for that. But you have a whole year and a half. So you have lots of time. All right. Keeping a very close eye on the watch. I plan on doing masters in CS, but not sure what to pursue after that job-wise. I can't make up my mind. What can help me overcome this dilemma? Okay. Quick fix answer you want. Find 7 companies in India that hire computer science majors. Okay. Find 3 blog articles that talk to you about what to study, what to work as after computer. What are the job opportunities after CS? Now you found 7 companies and 3 blog articles. Okay. Now eliminate from that things that don't appeal to you. Like, I don't want to get into consulting. I don't want to get into the tech space. I want to stay as a coder or whatever, software programmer, whatever. Now, in those 7 companies, go to the career page, look at what they hire as fresh graduates for, right? What is the job description? What are the job roles? Things like that. Now go on LinkedIn. I'm sure you have a LinkedIn account. If you don't, please have one. And find a few people who work in some of the 7 companies, right? And then see what has their journey been like. Now, when you take these data sets together, this is just data collection stage, right? You don't make any decisions. Now you put all this data together on an Excel sheet, sit back and now think for yourself what resonates the most with you. This is a shortcut way to get started. How can I add my experience in family business in my resume? Oh, listen, there is absolutely no taboo to be working in your family business. Okay, business schools, or even if you're looking for other programs outside of business schools, they are okay with entrepreneurs and they're okay with legacy business people. So you have to simply put it as it is. What were the core functions that you were serving in the business? What are the departments you're reporting to? Who are you working with? What are the skills you're developing? What kind of an impact are you making? It would just be ideal if your reporting manager is not dad or chacha or mama or someone. But if it's like somebody who's like an accountant or whatever, and you're working under them as a part of the finance team, that's fine. You can totally put it in there, in your resume. There has to be impact. There has to be quantification of the work that you're doing. And it's okay to have a family business in your resume. You don't have to feel bad about it at all. Okay, somebody wants to know if they should do an additional 4th year in their college itself. Are you looking at going to the United States or Canada? If that's your number 1 priority, then yes, do the 4th year. It'll just it'll cut out a lot of hassle for you. Plus, it'll allow you to focus very well on your 3rd year graduate GPA. Get a really solid GPA over this 1 year. And then you can plan your GRE or GMAT or whatever you have to give in the summer in between. Plus, plan something really impactful in terms of an internship over the summer. Plan some research engagements or, some club projects or some personal projects. So you have enough time to build a solid presence. And you have time to work on your standardized test. And you're studying for another year in the comfort of your own, college space. So there are a lot of reasons why you should do the 4th year. But But the first one should be that, yes, US and Canada, or US and or Canada is my number one priority. That's why I'm going to choose it. Okay. Heard about scholarships helping students in foreign studies, but where can I apply for those? All right. So what you need to basically do is that you need to look at first a shortlist of universities where you definitely want to apply. Okay. If it's in the United States, then there will be private endowments that each university will offer for international candidates for different criteria. So then you need to go to the tuition and scholarship page, find which scholarships are you eligible for, and make an application for those. Okay. The US also has a need-aware situation for international candidates, which basically means that if you definitely cannot fund them, and then you share that in the form that, yes, I want to be considered for merit-based financial aid, and I cannot fund the education, you have to submit some financial paperwork and stuff. And if there's a 40% shortfall, and if they admit you, then they will try and give you that 40%. But if they don't have that 40% for you, then they'll reject you. All right. So that's a very viable thing that happens in the US. In the UK, there isn't really any merit-based financial aid, but there are scholarships. And with the UK also, what happens is that sometimes after you get an admit, also university will send you a list of scholarships that you can typically be eligible for. There are also private funds like Mahindra Scholarship for Women or the Tata Trust, which is an interest-free loan that you can take. You can check those out as well. But another thing that you would look at potentially is like in the UK, like the Commonwealth Scholarship, which is only for Indians, or the Jawaharlal Nehru Scholarship, which is there at Oxford. So there are definitely private endowments which each university gives you an opportunity to apply for. And then there are some of those private funds in India, like I said, Mahindra, Tata, that you can consider. How much does research paper help? Okay, I'm going to take the last 3 questions, okay? So this is the third, and then I'll take 2 more. How much does research paper help in your resume? So it really depends, all right? If you are doing research just for the application's sake, it's not really going to help because you're not going to be doing it for the sake of learning something. But say somebody who's moving from psychology to marketing, right, now truly wants to explore the realm of marketing. So they decide to do under their mentor a research paper because they're in psychology, right? So the psychology teacher will say, okay, I'll mentor you on a research which is psychology focused. So they'll do like, consumer behavior across urban 18-year-olds, Gen Z or something like that, right? And then they're doing a marketing angle to psychology. Now, when you do that, there are a lot of realizations that you come across about marketing and about who you want to be in the realm of marketing. Like, I want to be somebody who impacts the consumer behavior. I want to be somebody who brings in ethics to consumer marketing, right? So then when you have those realizations and when you write about them in the essay, and then of course you submit the paper as an academic writing sample or a proposal or a 1 page of it. But when you're able to take those realizations and then put them into your essay, right? Then suddenly the university is like, oh yeah, this person has actually spent enough time kind of understanding their space and understanding who they want to be in that space. That's how the research would help. I'm not sure about which course I should do for master's, and I don't see myself fitting in the conventional courses. How should I go about this? Please get in touch with an educational counselor. I mean, come to the Red Pen. We'd be happy to counsel you. But if not, you want to meet somebody more in person or things like that, please go find yourself a counselor. At this juncture, it's very, very important that you get some really sound, good, objective information about yourself and what are the options out there and how to explore, and then some tools in your toolkit, right? And then you embark on the decision-making process. All right, this is the final question. And Prabha, because I've answered 2 questions from yours, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take your question. I'm going to take another question. Hi, I will graduate next month and I'm looking to do my master's in finance. I want to spend a few months building my profile. What should be the ideal target period for me? All right, so in terms of a timeline, Dipendu, so you're graduating in 2023. And what you need to be doing now is, okay, I'm just going to, all right. So you're graduating in 2023 and you want to make an application for 2024, hypothetically. All right. So for the next few months, you need to definitely be working because you're now a graduate. All right. But if you're looking at the US and Canada, then you need to study for another year. So that's another conversation. But if you're looking at 2025, right, then definitely standardized test prep. That's fine. But then also work. You have to work. You have to also do something that relates to how well you understand finance. You have to explore finance. So whether you're reading material or you're doing research or you're doing a project which helps you understand finance deeper, then those are the things you need to be focusing your energy on, Diptendra. All right. I know there are a lot more questions and I wish I could answer each one of them. Okay, I'm going to take one last question about recommendations. Letters of recommendation are very, very critical to your admission process, guys. It's super, super critical because that's the only one piece of document that somebody else is giving a perspective on you. If you close your eyes right now, and if you have to pick a visual of who you are as a person, right? Because admission officers don't look at your pictures, they don't look at your videos on Instagram and stuff. So if you close your eyes and you're like, okay, what kind of a visual am I presenting, right? Every application piece of that you submit, whether it's the essays, whether it's the application form, whether it's your transcript, whether it's your resume, it's all from your perspective, it's all from your angle. The letters of recommendation are the only document that's coming from a third perspective. And somebody who's credible, right? Who's able to vouch for that. So it's a very, very critical element. Sometimes letters of recommendation can make or break an application. It can make or break your enrollment opportunity, right? So definitely don't take it lightly. All right. Can I consider Mumbai University PGP and also the Meghna Desai course majorly for my fourth year education? Yes, for economics, Meghna Desai super works. SDBI, yeah, I mean, look at the NAAC accreditation for that. But I am not going to be able to answer the other question. I'm really, really sorry. We are running short of time. I encourage each one of you who still wants me to answer their questions to send us an email. I will definitely respond to you in the next 48 working hours for sure. It was a pleasure speaking to each one of you today. Thank you so much for joining this session. I hope you have a great evening ahead. I hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead. Please stay hydrated. Please stay safe. Thank you very much.